The Mini Biota wave system just passed its most important test in this entire system. I was finally able to run the system entirely overnight, which hasn't been possible this entire time. And the most important thing here is that the Airstone wasn't running at all this whole time overnight, which is really important because if the Airstone isn't working in the system, like let's say that I just don't have it running, then all of the organisms are gonna rise to the top because the oxygen levels drop significantly overnight. However, this time around, the wave system was running all night long, which is the first time I was able to do that. And none of the typical signs of low oxygen are visible. I would normally see, let's see, there's all of these little worms here in the sand, and they would come out of the sand in order to try to reach more oxygen. So this water is staying perfectly oxygenated all night long, which means that this whole system, this entire concept here, is doing exactly what I hoped it would do. And that means that this project really can move forward with this style of creating waves and tides. So to get a little bit into how this all works, I added some switches here in order for this to toggle between the two sides here. And I had to do that because when I programmed a sine wave, it would start to kind of just creep up little by little over the span of a couple hours, which meant that I couldn't run this system overnight because it would eventually hit the limits here, and that would just be really bad overall. So I improvised and designed these little clamps here that house, so let's see, so they house a limit switch, and then I have a second line of limit switches here so that if anything happens with the sensor, now this is all kind of rough right now, I just have wires all over the place, but if anything happens with the software and it bugs out, then I have the second line switches that will just disconnect the software altogether. So it'll just cut the signal, and then the driver here will just take over and just put the entire system in a hold position. But overall, it's working really nicely. I can kind of physically program it by just moving these clamps up and down. It's not a permanent solution. I know that I have to have a feedback system so that I can kind of program tides and it knows its position the entire time. But for now, I was able to run everything overnight, and it's producing the waves that I hoped for, and this whole thing is working out super nicely.